started with silence. Not just the lack of running water, real silence. The kind that creeps under your skin and stays there, like a whisper you weren't supposed to hear. I'd just come in from raking leaves. The backyard looked like a Norman Rockwell painting, gold and red all over the lawn, and my lower back reminding me I wasn't 30 anymore. All I wanted was a hot shower and some peace. Instead, I got nothing but cold air and the hollow groan of pipes pretending to work. I tried the upstairs one too. Same deal. No water pressure. Just a sputter, then silence. Now, in most households, that's a minor inconvenience. In mine, it felt like a trigger, because that bathroom, the one upstairs, is sacred territory. Has been for years. Chelsea's haven. I've always used the downstairs one like a trained dog. Upstairs? That's where she went for her me time. Long showers. Locked door. Scented candles. The whole ritual. God help you if you interrupted. Still, I figured it was a plumbing thing. Called up Dave. A guy I've known since I taught his kid US history 15 years ago. Honest man, no drama. Told him the shower had gone silent. He came over with his usual gear, pipe scope, wrench set, camera snake. We made small talk while he set up in the bathroom. I left him alone and went to the kitchen, poured us some coffee, flipped open the crossword. 10 minutes passed, then 15, then nothing. Not even the sound of tools clinking. Just dead quiet. And then he came down. Not with the easy gait of a man who'd found a broken valve or a clogged filter. No, Dave looked sick. White, shaky. Eyes wide like he'd seen something he wasn't supposed to. Who uses that shower most? He asked. I blinked. My wife. Every morning. He looked at me not like a plumber, like a man delivering a death sentence. You need to leave. Right now. That's when everything shifted. The room, the coffee, the air. All of it suddenly felt off. Like I was standing inside a photo of my life, not living it. I didn't yell. I didn't ask what the hell he meant. I just nodded once and followed him back upstairs. It's strange what the mind clings to in moments like that. The smell of eucalyptus shampoo. The foggy mirror. The pink towel draped over the door like it had been there for years. Dave didn't talk. He just crouched, reinserted the camera snake into the wall access panel behind the shower, and hit record. The tiny screen flickered. Then there it was, grainy, but unmistakable. A lens, embedded deep behind the tile, pointed into the shower. Not downward like you'd expect from drainage debris. Inward, toward whoever was standing under the water. See that? Dave said, voice low. Yeah. That's no clog. That's a camera. Long corroded, probably, but still intact. Wires run sideways, not into the drain. Someone planted it inside the wall. I just stared. Dave shifted, uncomfortable. I've only seen this once before. Apartment complex in Lansing. Turned out the building manager was filming tenants. Guy got 12 years. But this, he shook his head. This is residential. This is your home. Couldn't move. My skin felt too tight. My breath shallow. 100 images raced through my mind. Chelsea locking the door. Her saying privacy is sacred. Her sudden freak out that one time I forgot to knock. Then Dave said it again, softer this time. Martin, you need to leave. The worst part? It wasn't shock. Not really. It was the slow realization that somewhere deep inside, I already knew. And if you're still here with me listening, do one thing, hit subscribe. More than 97% of you never do, but it helps the team keep digging up these stories. And I promise, it gets darker from here. I thanked Dave. Or at least I think I did. My mouth moved. Words came out. But I was already spiraling. Because I had lived in that house for 30 years. And I had never known my wife. The thing about watching something horrific in real time, not a movie, not a headline, your life, is that your brain fights it, tries to bargain, reframe it, make it less than what it clearly is. I watched the footage on Dave's little monitor in his van, tucked beside his toolboxes and PVC couplers. Frame by frame, his thumb moved slowly across the dial. The image jittered slightly, murky and distorted by age, but it was there. Not a pipe leak, not roots, a lens. No bigger than a pinky nail. Corroded, yes, but unmistakably a camera. Right behind the shower tiles, nestled inside what looked like a makeshift cavity. Like someone had carefully carved it out. Someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Zoom, I whispered. Dave complied. The resolution wasn't great, but the wires were clear. Not running down toward the drainage system, but sideways. toward the adjacent bedroom wall. "See that?" Dave said, tapping the screen with his pen. "That's not water damage. That's deliberate. They drilled, routed, sealed it up tight. Whoever did this wasn't just hiding it. They wanted it to last." My mouth went dry. "How long do you think it's been there?" "Years," he said instantly. "At least. The corrosion's deep. You'd need climate exposure, steam, time." He rubbed his temples and looked around nervously, like someone might be watching him. "Martin, I've been in this trade 25 years. I found dead possums, old bullets, even a wedding ring once. But I've never seen this. Not in a residential setup." Then, a beat later, his voice dropped lower. "You said your wife uses that shower, right? Not you. Every morning. Like clockwork." He stared at me. "And you never noticed anything?" I opened my mouth to respond, but nothing came out. Because what could I say? That Chelsea was a creature of habit? That she liked her long showers while I made coffee and read the paper? That I respected her privacy, even when it started to feel like a wall made of bricks? Not boundaries? I said none of it. I just stood there, swaying slightly. Dave sighed. "Look, I'll file a report. I have to, but I'm not getting pulled deeper into whatever this is. You understand me?" I nodded, slowly, like someone nodding at the end of a funeral service. He handed me the memory card. "You'll want this." Then he pulled a crumpled invoice from the glove box, scribbled down the basic info, and said, barely above a whisper, "Whatever this is, it's old, and it wasn't random." I sat in my car for a full 30 minutes before starting the engine. The card burned in my coat pocket like a secret I never asked to carry. The house sat in front of me, still and calm, the porch light flickering just slightly, like it was winking. Inside that house was a woman I'd shared a bed with for 3 decades. A woman who, if Dave was right, had been showering in front of a secret camera for years without ever breathing a word. And the most terrifying part? There was no sign of fear in her. No paranoia. No confusion. Because when you don't speak up about being watched, it's usually because you know who's watching. She asked it too casually. We were standing by the stove, Chelsea plating some overcooked salmon and pretending everything was fine, when she said, with her back to me, "Did the plumber say anything weird?" I felt the question ripple through me like a wire touched to water. I kept my tone neutral. "Just calcium buildup," I said. "Older pipes, typical for a house this age." She nodded too quickly. Her hands were steady until she reached for the wine bottle. That's when I saw it. A tremble, almost imperceptible, in her wrist. The kind you can't fake. The kind your body betrays you with when your mind is trying to stay still. She poured us both a glass of Merlot and changed the subject to the neighbor's new deck. I nodded along, said something about wood rot and permits. But in my head, I wasn't in that kitchen anymore. I was already crawling through the dark. After dinner, I said I needed to check the water heater. Grabbed a flashlight. Slipped into the narrow crawl space through the basement panel. Chelsea didn't ask questions. Just nodded and turned up the TV. The crawl space is a place only spiders and regrets live. Low ceiling, uneven boards, insulation fibers like old snow. But I remembered something from last year. A patch of floor that creaked differently, a bit more hollow than the rest. At the time, I chalked it up to foundation shift. Now it felt like a lead. I found it after 10 minutes of dust and scraped knuckles. A panel, not original to the house, screwed in sloppily. I pried it open. Inside was a box. No label. Steel. Locked, but old school. Nothing a flathead screwdriver and 30 years of pent-up doubt couldn't handle. Clicked open. And that's when everything inside me changed. First, a roll of 20s. Neatly rubber-banded. Maybe 4 or 5 grand total. Next, a broken flash drive. Cracked down the middle. The metal connector bent at an odd angle, like someone tried to destroy it but lost steam halfway through. Then, the photos. I remember my breath fogging in the beam of my flashlight. My fingers went cold. There she was. Chelsea. In the shower. Captured mid-turn. Water cascading over her back. The tile pattern matched. The angle matched. It was from that lens. The lens inside the wall. The one no one was supposed to know about. But she knew. And not just that. She'd printed it. Stored it. Hid it. There was no date. No watermark. No digital signature. Just glossy paper. Intimate. Intentional. Controlled. My heart thudded in my chest like it was trying to break out. She wasn't a victim. She was the archivist. I replaced the lid and backed out of the crawl space, knees trembling, brain screaming. I washed the dirt from my hands in the downstairs sink. Chelsea was upstairs, humming in the shower, probably the downstairs one now that the other had been exposed. She always adjusted like that, quietly, without protest, like a snake shedding its skin. I stared into the hallway mirror and realized I wasn't looking at a man anymore. I was looking at something watched, something managed. It wasn't the camera that scared me most. It was the way she never once asked why the plumber had been called. Cal still looked like the awkward high school senior I used to teach, just with more facial hair and a better chair. He ran his IT shop out of the back of a vape lounge, cluttered with monitors, hard drives, and a worn-out coffee maker that hadn't been cleaned since the Obama administration. He didn't ask many questions when I handed him the busted flash drive. Just raised an eyebrow and said, "You want me to try salvaging this? If it's not completely dead." "Nothing's ever completely dead," he replied with a little smirk. "It's just sleeping weird." He promised to call me if he found anything. I didn't expect much. Maybe a couple corrupted files, some ghost data. Enough to make me feel insane, but not enough to prove anything. 2 days later, he texted, "You need to come see this in person." Not, "We got some results." Not, "Found something weird." No, it was the kind of message people send when they've opened a door they wish they hadn't. I went. The shop was dark except for the blue glow of 6 monitors. Kyle looked different this time, less curious, more rattled. "I didn't want to send this over email," he said, spinning his chair around. "This stuff, it's not just sensitive. It's sick." He pulled up a folder labeled recovered_sam_cache. Dozens of files. All time-stamped. No titles, no context, just raw.mp4s. He clicked one. Full screen. There she was. Chelsea. Stepping into the shower like it was a stage she owned. Hair up. Steam rising. Angle tilted from high in the wall. Not quite wide enough to seem cinematic, but too steady to be accidental. I clenched my fists. Cal didn't say anything. He just played the next one. Then the next. And then the one that stopped everything. Not Chelsea. Someone else. Younger. Shorter hair. Nervous eyes. She looked familiar, but not in a friend-of-a-friend way. More like a photo you'd stared at for hours once. Back when people still cared. Chelsea's old coworker. Marissa. From the marketing firm she used to complain about. The one who vanished 2 years ago. Missing person flyers. Candlelight vigil. Nothing ever found. She was there. In my bathroom. Same tile. Same shower curtain. Same camera angle. She never looked at the lens. Just washed her hair, methodical and tired. Like it wasn't even her home. Like someone put her there. For a reason. Cal paused the video. Looked at me. "Martin. What the hell is this?" I didn't answer. Couldn't. My throat closed like it had been wired shut. He clicked through 3 more videos. Different women. All younger. All in the same place. Only Chelsea appeared in most of them. Sometimes alone. Sometimes not. Kyle leaned back. Arms folded. "I can wipe this. Pretend you never brought it. But I'm guessing that's not what you want." I stared at the screen. Watched the steam swirl around faces I didn't recognize, or didn't want to. Chelsea hadn't just kept quiet about the camera. She'd used it. Or let someone else use it. Or both. The drive wasn't just evidence. It was a library. I took it back in a sealed envelope. Cal said he'd never seen me, never touched it. Smart kid. Back in my car, I sat for a long time. My hands gripping the wheel, knuckles white. Radio off. Mind reeling. It wasn't betrayal anymore. This wasn't about affairs. It was something darker. Something hungry. And I had lived with it. Shared a bed with it. Celebrated anniversaries with it. The woman who made me lasagna every Tuesday night had a collection of ghosts hidden in my walls. And now I was beginning to think. Not all of them were still walking. The phrase spa night used to sound harmless. Inviting even. Soft lighting. Face masks. Overpriced wine. And women laughing about things men weren't supposed to understand. Chelsea hosted them once every month or so. Sometimes more. Always on Fridays. Always upstairs. I used to joke about it. "Gonna be a cucumber massacre up there?" She'd laugh. "You're not allowed near the 2nd floor tonight, mister." Then she'd kiss me on the cheek and vanish upstairs with a bottle of wine and her little troop of coworkers. I watched sports in the den. Ate leftovers. Went to bed early. I didn't ask questions. Now I can't stop asking them. With the flash drive still sealed in my glove box and the nausea clawing at my throat, I sat at the computer and started digging. Public records. Social media breadcrumbs. Old newsletters from the firm Chelsea used to work for, the same place where Marissa had been listed as marketing-led until her name just disappeared. 5 names. All women. All on archive team pages from the firm, dated around the time Chelsea worked there. 3 had changed jobs abruptly according to LinkedIn. Sudden relocations. Short gaps in employment. 1 moved out of state entirely, no digital trace after 2023. Another was still listed at the firm but hadn't posted in over a year. And 1, Marissa, was marked as missing in a digital news clipping I saved months ago when the story first broke. She was last seen leaving a downtown cafe. Chelsea had acted shocked back then. Said something like, "God, that's awful," and went back to folding laundry. At the time, I thought nothing of it. Now I wondered if she helped fold the woman. The photos in the lockbox weren't just Chelsea. A few of the others were there, too, captured from similar angles, same tile patterns, the cheap soap we kept in that bathroom like a signature. The same towels. The same shelves I built by hand. Those women had stood in my house. In my shower. But I never saw them. Never heard a car pull up. Never noticed an extra coat on the rack. Because I was always downstairs. Like a loyal, clueless pet. I tried recalling the nights she hosted those spa parties. Always locked doors. Always music loud enough to cover anything unusual. If I ever walked up to ask a question, she met me halfway down the stairs with a smile and a kiss and a wine glass, and told me she'd be done soon. The woman I married was always 1 step ahead of me. And now the pattern was clear. The women came, disappeared from the job, then scattered like ashes in the wind. Except 1. Marissa never left. She just vanished. And the footage didn't lie. She'd been here. In my home. In that room. I stared at Chelsea's old calendars. She used to keep them in a drawer by the fridge. Neatly written in her looping, confident cursive. Spa night girls only nail polish on at least 8 occasions I could still read. Some had tiny asterisks next to them. 1 had a first name I hadn't noticed before. Lindsay. One of the women who left the company abruptly. There were no coincidences. She wasn't just complicit. She was the organizer. The one who opened the door. Who poured the wine. Who turned up the music and dimmed the lights. Who made sure I stayed where I belonged. Chelsea wasn't afraid of being watched. Because she had chosen the camera. She hadn't married a husband. She had installed an alibi. And while I taught AP US history and grilled steaks and thought myself a good man doing his best, she was running something beneath my feet. Inside my walls. And if I had ever asked too much, pressed too hard, walked upstairs uninvited, what would have happened to me? The thought didn't just repulse me. It made me cold. Reptile cold. I didn't want answers anymore. I wanted evidence. It was a Tuesday when I dialed the number. Office hours. Mid-morning. The perfect time to reach someone half distracted. Not yet worn down by the day. Chelsea was out running errands. Though at this point I couldn't even picture what that meant anymore. I sat in the kitchen with a yellow legal pad, a burner phone, and a voice I hadn't used in years. The calm, clipped cadence of someone with a badge and a reason. Human Resources, Windmere and Nash. A woman answered. Yes, hi. This is Tom Rayner. I'm conducting a background verification on a former employee of yours, Marissa Galloway. This is for a corporate compliance audit tied to a pending grant. I need to confirm employment duration and any internal notes associated with her exit. There was a pause. The kind that stretches just long enough to let you know something is off. I'm sorry. What did you say your name was again? Tom Rayner. Compliance Division, OSI Capital Group. We're reviewing past contractor histories tied to a pending financial acquisition. Another beat. I see, she said, voice flatter now. Give me 1 moment. I waited. The sound of typing filtered through. Then the shift in tone. You're not the first to ask about her. The woman whispered, almost inaudible. But we don't discuss her anymore. Not. We don't have any records. Not. She left on good terms. Just that we don't discuss her anymore. I thanked her and hung up. The silence afterward wasn't empty. It was loud. It screamed. Chelsea had worked there for years. Said she left because the culture got toxic. I never asked follow-up questions. Why would I? She got a decent severance, started doing contract admin work, managed a short-term rental out of the garage. Life moved on. But now I saw the edges. The places where the truth had seeped out, but I hadn't looked closely enough. I burned the notepad, shredded the burner SIM, switched back to my real phone like nothing had happened. And that night, I played my role again. Dutiful husband, cleaned the kitchen, poured her wine, even laughed at her half-hearted comment about how weird the mailman's been lately. But she was watching me now, more than usual. At one point, she lingered in the hallway longer than necessary, pretending to look for something in the coat closet. But I saw her eyes drift toward me. Her expression wasn't warmth. It wasn't curiosity. It was calculation. "You've been quiet lately," she said. I set my glass down slowly, met her gaze. "So have you." She blinked. Just once. But it was the kind of blink you see in poker games when someone knows the table has turned. She smiled, brittle, fake, and walked back into the living room. I stayed in the kitchen, listening, not to the TV or the creaking floors. I listened to the void, because something had shifted between us. Not a rupture. Not yet. A balance. She knew I knew something, but not what, and I wasn't going to hand her that comfort. Not anymore. His name was Owen, and he wasn't hard to find. Not if you know where the cracks in people's lives tend to form. Old emails Chelsea had printed and shoved into the back of a kitchen drawer, along with spare takeout menus and expired coupons. One thread included a PayPal confirmation to Owen L. Payment for handyman work. The email was a Gmail address half misspelled and full of numbers, the kind no professional would ever use. But the trail was there. He used to rent the garage unit. Back when Chelsea got bored and wanted to manage a little property. Said she liked the independence. She ran the listing, handled the lease, kept the key. I stayed out of it. Owen had moved 2 towns over. I found a local Facebook community post where someone had tagged him in a garage sale flyer. That led me to a hardware shop where he apparently still owed money. The clerk said he worked part-time unloading pallets behind a strip mall. It wasn't hard to spot him. He looked exactly how I imagined. Mid-30s, twitchy, a faded Metallica shirt, and that hollow look men get when they've lived too many lives in too little time. I followed him to his beat-up car, waited for him to unlock the door, then spoke. "You're Owen." He froze, turned slowly. "Who's asking?" "My name's Martin." I didn't smile. "You rented from my wife, Chelsea." The look on his face said everything. Yeah, that was a while ago, man. You did some handyman work for her too, right?" He scratched his neck. "Just basic stuff. Sealing windows, installing some light switches." "Nothing." "You ran wire through our upstairs bathroom wall." His mouth opened. Nothing came out. I took out the flash drive, held it like a lit match. He stared at it wide-eyed. "She said those were destroyed," he whispered, voice barely holding. "They weren't." He backed against the car like I'd pulled a weapon. "She said it was for security," he sputtered. "Said you were paranoid, that you'd accused her of cheating years ago and wanted to monitor the house, like some kind of marital black box. Swore you knew about it. Said she was just hiding the feed from your phone so you wouldn't obsess." I didn't react. He went on, faster now. "I thought it was sketchy, man, but she paid cash and she was convincing. Real calm, real precise. Told me exactly where to drill, how to route it, what tools to use. Even gave me a cheap wireless feed box to tuck behind the baseboard. And she paid you not to talk. She said it could confuse things legally. I didn't know what was on the drive. I thought maybe it was just like, you two arguing? Or her protecting herself. Did you install anything else?" He hesitated, then nodded. "Another lens. Smaller. In the hallway vent. But it wasn't active. She said it was just in case. I never got the sense it was meant for you." My hands tightened around the flash drive. I forced myself to breathe slowly. He wiped his palms on his jeans. "Look, man. I didn't know what she was into. I just needed the money. When the lease ended, she ghosted me. Said it was done. Said if anyone ever asked, I should say I fixed a pipe. You fixed a lot more than that." His shoulders slumped. "You're not gonna call the cops, are you?" I didn't answer. I didn't have to, because Owen wasn't the story. He was the tool. A disposable part in Chelsea's little theater of shadows. And now, thanks to him, I had what I needed. She planned the install. She controlled the angles. She paid for silence. And now, I held the proof she thought had been buried years ago. The walls in that house weren't just hiding cameras. They were hiding intent. The cabinet was cheap steel, the kind you'd find in a community center office, beige, dented, always locked. It sat in the back corner of Chelsea's home office under an old lamp and 2 years of magazines she never read. I passed it 1,000 times. Even offered once to move it when she was cleaning. She said no. Always no. It's boring admin stuff, she once said. Just contracts and receipts. You'd fall asleep reading them. She was wrong. I didn't fall asleep. I broke the lock at 3 a.m. with a crowbar and a towel wrapped around the handle to muffle the sound. She was snoring upstairs, knocked out cold from whatever white wine tranquilizer she'd poured down her throat after her usual yoga and unwind session. Inside were rows of hanging folders, neat, labeled, color-coded, but not in any way I'd seen before. Instead of labels like utilities or warranties, these were tagged with dates, first names, and alphanumeric codes. Each file had subfolders with transcripts, printed transcripts, of what looked like conversations. Some of them were between me and her, not emails, transcriptions, as if someone had been recording, transcribing, archiving. I read one where I said something about picking up milk and Chelsea responding with, "Don't forget paper towels." Harmless, right? Except I remembered that conversation, because we weren't in the kitchen when it happened. We were in the car, a place I had assumed was private, and now it was printed, highlighted, time-stamped. I flipped through more folders, names I didn't recognize, some first names, some last, all female. Some had brief notations, disengaged 2022, moved March, no callback. Then came the thick black folder at the back. No label, just a red dot sticker on the corner. Inside were receipts, mostly cash withdrawals, all to a supposed consulting firm called Birchgrove Solutions LLC. But the address was a parking lot in Kansas. The phone number listed had been disconnected. I looked deeper and found a card paper-clipped to the back of one receipt. Michael Green, Private Risk Consultant. No logo, just a number. I stepped into the backyard, turned my phone on speaker, and hit record. The line rang twice before a gravel voice picked up. "Yeah. Hi, Michael. I'm calling about a mutual acquaintance. She used your services a while back. Chelsea W. Pause. Who is this? Someone who found your name in her file cabinet, under a pile of surveillance transcripts and receipts for ghost companies." Silence. I continued, calm as death. "I'm not calling to threaten you. I'm calling to confirm what I already know. She paid you for what exactly? Data? Background checks? Remote installs?" He exhaled slowly, like someone who realized they were 2 steps behind in a game they thought they'd already won. "I don't know who you think I am. You're the man who told her what to buy, who to follow. You advised her on privacy gaps. You helped build the infrastructure. I'm hanging up. You already did years ago. You just didn't know it." He clicked off mid-sentence. The recording stopped. I saved it. I didn't need him to admit anything. His silence confirmed everything louder than a confession. Back in the office, I sat in her chair and looked at the cabinet like it was an open grave. This wasn't about infidelity. Not even close. It was surveillance, manipulation, control. But more than that, it was architecture. Chelsea didn't make mistakes. She designed systems. She didn't react. She preloaded her responses. I had lived inside a script for years, played my role like a damn professional. But now, I had her blueprints. I closed the folder, snapped a photo of the receipts, and slid the flash drive into my jacket pocket. The house was quiet when I turned off the lights. Chelsea was still upstairs, breathing steadily, dreaming maybe of her next game. But the board had shifted, and I wasn't a piece anymore. The lawyer didn't ask many questions. Just looked through the folders, then back at me, then back at the folders again, the way someone might look at a strange and dangerous animal in a cage and wonder how the hell it got there. "Emergency divorce," I said. Flat. Uncontested. Immediate motion to separate assets. "I'll waive alimony. She gets nothing from me. Nothing further. Not even a conversation." He nodded slowly. "Based on what you've handed me, I'd say you're entitled to a hell of a lot more. But sure, we'll keep it surgical." The folders were sealed, labeled, dated. One for the lawyer, one for the bank, one for me. The original flash drive stayed with me, in a fireproof envelope tucked under my shirt. Every file had been printed, backed up, and password protected in a cloud account under a name Chelsea didn't know. I left no traces, no trail. And then I packed. Clothes, laptop, keys, the records, my father's old watch. The rest, the things we'd collected together over 30 years, I left behind. I wanted no part of them. They belonged to someone else now. Someone who hadn't seen the lens in the wall. Someone who believed in the lie of warm dinners and casual smiles and innocent spa nights. By the time Chelsea got home, the house was quiet. I heard the car door close, her footsteps up the walkway, the little grunt she made when juggling her purse and reusable bags. I stood in the kitchen, waiting, a small duffel bag at my feet. The front door opened. She stepped inside, smiling absently. "Hey Han, they were out of your oat milk, so I got the almond one you hate. But they had that weird garlic hummus you." She stopped. The smile dropped. Her eyes flicked from the bag to the table, to the folder, sealed in red. Her name in bold block letters on the tab. "What's going on?" I didn't answer, just nodded toward the folder. She hesitated, set the groceries down slowly, walked over, hand steady but not too steady, like she was playing a part, trying to guess which scene she'd walked into. She opened it. Page 1, the photo from the crawlspace. Her mid-shower in the angle of the wall camera. Page 2, the transcript folder. Timestamps highlighted. Page 3, a receipt to Birchgrove Solutions LLC. Page 4, a screenshot from the recovered flash drive. Marissa's face, mid-step, mid-shower, looking unsure and tired and present in our home. Her hands stopped turning. Color drained from her cheeks. "This isn't," she started. I raised a hand. "No," I said, calm. Too calm. "Don't. I can explain." "No," I repeated. "You can't. And I wouldn't believe you even if you could." She swallowed. Hard. "This isn't what it looks like. It never is. That's the problem." I bent to pick up the bag. "I'm not fighting. I'm not arguing. I'm not even asking. It's done. The papers are signed. The attorney's on standby. You'll be served within 24 hours. Martin, please." I looked at her for what I knew would be the last time. Not with anger. Not even with sadness. Just a kind of clinical detachment. The same way I used to look at artifacts in my history classroom. Objects from people who lived entire lives I'd never fully understand, and wouldn't want to. "You buried the truth under my floorboards," I said. "I just dug it up." Then I walked past her. Out the door. Into air that felt like it actually belonged to me. She didn't follow. She didn't scream. She just stood there, folder open, lies scattered on the table, finally realizing the camera wasn't what undid her. It was the silence that came after. The email came at 2:17 a.m., 3 days after I walked out and never looked back. No subject line, no message body, just an attachment. Dom P4. The sender's address was encrypted, long, a meaningless string of characters, except for the domain. It was hosted on a secure server I recognized from my days teaching Cold War surveillance tactics. Not something you stumble across on Gmail, but it was the name in the registration metadata that told me everything. Her maiden name. No one used that name anymore, not even her family. She'd buried it like a bad credit score the moment we got married. And yet, here it was reborn. Quiet. Surgical. Like the ghost of the woman she used to be, or maybe always was. I opened the file. The screen lit up, that same bathroom. That same lens. No steam this time. No motion blur. Just Chelsea, wrapped in a towel, staring dead-on into the camera. Expressionless. Still. Then, she whispered a name. Not mine. Not anyone I recognized. Just a single, sharp syllable, Delaney. She said it twice. Then she smiled. Slow. Controlled. The kind of smile you'd see on someone closing a vault. The video cut out. That's it. No explanation. No threats. No demands. Just proof, not of guilt or innocence, but of intent. Of control. I Googled the name. Delaney. Took less than 5 minutes to find the article. For states over. A city council aide involved in a blackmail scheme tied to surveillance footage and compromised officials. No arrests. The case had gone cold. Suspects unnamed. Footage inconclusive. One mention of a missing associate with ties to private risk firms. None confirmed. And there it was. A redacted image of a woman in the background of a public event. Back turned. Hair up. But I knew that posture. I knew that dress. Chelsea. Or whatever version of her lived before the house, the wedding, the layers of domestic performance. I sat in the dark for a long time. Then I forwarded the video, unedited, uncaptioned, to the authorities in that jurisdiction. No note. No name. Let them figure it out. After that, I purged everything. Her photos, her voice messages, her contact info, emergency backups, every login she ever used on our shared devices. I factory reset every system, burned the folders, deleted the backups, threw the flash drive into the river that used to be our favorite walking trail. I erased her so thoroughly, I started to wonder if I'd imagined her. But I hadn't. No one imagines someone like Chelsea. You survive them, and then you build a life where their shadow doesn't get to sit in the corner anymore. That video, that last whisper into the lens, wasn't a confession. It was a message. She knew exactly what she'd left behind. And that smile? That was her saying goodbye on her terms. But this time, I didn't flinch. I didn't follow. I just closed the laptop, stood up, and opened a window. And for the first time in years, the air didn't smell like someone else's secrets.